How's it going? I'm Dan Ashby. I have hand-drawn my slides as well, so you? Yes. I'm going to talk about SMURFS. I hope everyone likes SMURFS. Let me tell you a little bit about me first. I come from a testing background. I work at Lab 49. I am the deputy head of quality there, so I get to manage a lot of people, boss a lot of people around, and teach people about quality as well. I'm also active in the testing community as well as agile communities, and I've came here a few times, but not a regular. Sorry. I blog on WordPress, Dan Ashby04. I'm on Twitter, and I'm co-host of a podcast as well, Testing in the Pub. Is there any testers here? Oh, one hand? Yes! We rock. So yeah, I want to talk about SMURFS. Does anyone who know what the SMURFS name is? No? I don't either. I'm just asking if anyone does, because I'm curious. I'm not actually going to talk about these guys. Come on, that would be ridiculous. Although this guy looks really cool, because he's got a kilt on. I'm really going to talk about MVP. Everybody's heard of this, MVP, right? Everybody knows what it stands for. What was that? Yeah, okay. I hate that term because of all the misconceptions that it harbours. Many people think that MVP means smallest, quickest, shippable features. And usually, whenever someone talks about MVP, they throw up this slide. Has everyone seen this? Yeah? Everybody's seen this? Whenever I see this, this is always my response. Big face palm, and what the fuck? Because it has nothing about context and nothing about value. So whenever I see this, as an example of it not having context and value, what if I wanted to travel to Glasgow from London in less than 20 hours with 3 people in the rain and I don't want to get wet, right? Then I'm not really going to look like this if someone gives me a skateboard or a scooter or a bicycle or even a motorbike because I've got 3 people and I don't want to get wet, right? So context is key, right? And whenever someone talks about MVP, they never mention context, right? But it's all about how we slice stories, right? And how we think about the idea of the feature before we start working on the feature itself. So this is where SMURFS come into play, right? Has anyone heard of this acronym? Right, so you have? Anyone? No? I thought there was a few nods there. So SMURFS stands for Specific, Marketable, Usable, Releasable Feature Sets. And it's created by a guy called Matt Barcombe, who's an American guy, really cool guy on Twitter to follow. All of these are keywords, but I'm going to focus because my slides are 5 minutes. I'm going to focus on 3 words. Marketable. So think about when you're slicing stories and you're creating your backlog. Everybody should be involved in doing that, right? Testers as well. I know you're taking a photo and you're not really listening to me right now because you're texting. So is it sellable? Is the individual story that you're slicing, is it marketable? You know, how many people involve marketing when creating stories? Not very many. Oh, one, yes. I've started involving the marketing team, and we've found it really helps so much because we try to get them to talk about individual stories and whether they could sell that story individually and make money from it. And 9 times out of 10, when they're involved first, they'll be like, no. Individually, we couldn't sell this story, but with this group of stories that would normally cover about 4 or 5 sprints, then we could sell something. So they help slicing stories from that aspect. Usable. This is where it's thinking about value, thinking about whether it's useful as well. Well, that's a keyword itself. It needs no real explanation. Releasable. Now, independently is the keyword there as well. So when we think about how we slice the stories, well, borrow here for CD, right? Continuous delivery and continuous deployment. If we're working on stories individually, we should be able to release those stories individually, right? In theory. So to give an example, this is a real example from a team that I used to work in another previous company, where we were asked to, we had two systems. We were asked to create a web service, which would pull system 1, pull data, and push that data into system 2. And there would be some sorting in the web service as well. And initially, we created our stories like this. Now, this might be quite common, where story 1, we create the web service. Story 2, we then create a timed poll. Story 3, we then pull the data, and then we sort the data, and then we push it to the service number 2. But independently, these aren't valuable. So what started happening was we created the web service, and then we wanted to push that web service to the customer. The customer was like, great, how can we use this? And then we're like, oh, well, you can't use it at the moment because it's just a web service. It doesn't do anything. And then we added the poll, and then they were like, oh, yes, we're getting more functionality. Can we use it yet? Like, no, not really. It's not actually going to pull any data across yet. That's story number 5, right? So independently, these weren't usable, valuable. They weren't marketable. We couldn't sell them independently. So what we did was we went back and we did a story mapping and chartering session, and we sliced our stories in this way. So story 1 was a bare bones web service with a single click to pull. So it was a manual click to pull, and it would pull the first row and push that. And it turned out that because we involved the customers, they loved this solution because all they wanted to do was get one admin set up in system 2 so that they could start doing stuff in system 2, right? Because it was user information that we were pulling across. And then this was marketable straight away. It was releasable, it was independent, it was valuable. Then story 2, replace the click with a time poll so that we could continuously run this poll, but still only pulling the first row and pushing it. Then we replaced the pull first row with pull multiple rows, and then push the single rows. And then we added sorting, and then we progressed, and we ended up building up this web service. So when we're thinking about MVP, because I know that nobody's going to probably start using the term SMURFS, right? But have SMURFS in the back of your mind. Use it as a heuristic, right? Whenever you're slicing stories, think about context. Think about this, all the definition of SMURFS. Yeah.